Alrighty. Alright. I think I'm all set. Time will tell, right? It's not until I actually need something pulled up that I don't have pulled up that I'll know what I don't have pulled up. But I think I got it all. And here we are. It's Monday, and we're back at it, which is a cool thing, all things considered. I know, little friend, my little editor-in-chief over here. She's napping on the job. It's wonderful. But yeah, here we are, gonna do some writing. As implied by the title here, I want to start working on the biggest mission that we outlined a little while back regarding this region we've been working on, and that's going to be our mission that includes our summer Eladrin. Really, it's just an Eladrin, but it maintains its summer form because it's is kind of angry, a little pissy in general. And so yeah, I want to start working on that. I'm hoping my goal is I'm hoping we can have at least half of this outlined by the end of this week. That's sort of my goal. We'll see. A lot of that depends on how long it takes to make our dungeon maps and everything, because that's really going to be that's like the big parts of everything, right? The most intensive and time-consuming components. So, but there's really nothing to do about it except to just dive in and get going, right? So that's what we're gonna do. That is what we're gonna do. So I started already working on a little bit of stuff, really just sort of outlining all of these. Really, I just kind of got through all of the basic background information stuff that we already sort of talked about by doing our general outline. Thank you for running a smart scan. I appreciate that, Avast. I appreciate you waiting until I was in the middle of something to do that, rather than, you know, taking care of it when my computer was up and I was off doing other things. You know, wouldn't that have been wonderful? But it's not how we do things in Windows. We have to do things as disruptively and in the way as possible. So, anyway, where was I? Yeah, so we're working on this a little bit. The only other things here, let's see here. The only things that I really have left to sort of outline on the mission detail page, which is what I've set up here. So I was hemming and hawing. Actually, I can kind of go over this really quickly just for those who are curious about the process that I go through. So I was hemming and hawing about how I would organize this because I was out of layers of page and subpage that I could utilize here in this Atlas segment. And so what I decided to do is I'm just going to, thank you, Avast. Oh my goodness gracious. Picks the worst times sometimes. But what I decided to do is, because I'm out of subpages, I'm going to just for every page within this C6 square that we're doing, which is kind of where it leads into here. Basically, everything is just going to be, I'm going to put, beforehand what the page is, and then do the information, and then just organize it by information type, right? So I have mission, the Summer Eladrin, right? Because that's the name of the mission that I'm working on. And so there'll be that information. And then the next one will be mission, whatever the next mission is going to be, the Young Blue Dragon, so on and so forth. So there's going to be all of the missions. And then from there, probably after that, I'll do the dungeons. And then is probably when I'll do either I'll put beforehand the city and the shop templates, or I'll put those afterwards. It kind of just depends on what I decide I want to have more handy, because for the sake of organization, it makes more sense to do cities, shops, missions, and then dungeons, because that's kind of the hierarchy of how things will be encountered. But the flip side is, if I keep the missions and the dungeons more readily available, those are definitely going to be the ones that we spend more time with. So they're the ones that when I'm opening this up, I'm much more likely to need those rapidly. So I'll just have to decide whether I want sort of conceptual or functional organization to be the guiding principle. And I mean, ultimately, it's not going to matter because it's all going to be just available there, and it's all going to be, mission, dungeon, so on and so forth. But in case there's anyone who's curious about how I came to the decision of doing it that way, that's going to be it. The other reason to keep everything like that and not worry too much and not hem and haw and stress too much about tabs and subpages and stuff like that, the other reason I'm not as worried about it is because you can, within Microsoft OneNote here, you can save hyperlinks to pages. And what I mean is, if I were to right-click here on the mission, I can copy link to the page. And so if I copy the link to the page and then paste that in another page, that will create a hyperlink that I can click on. and it will take me directly to that other page that I copied. That is to say, so with all these detailed, like, so here's detailed steps, and we'll get into what I'm going to do with that in a minute. But I'm going to have like all of the locations there, right? So there's going to be the mission, and then a little lower there will be all of the dungeons. And so what I can do is I can do the location name, and then the parentheses, and then I can do a dash, and then I can do the hyperlink to that page that has the detailed dungeon outline on it. So I can make it that when I'm in here and I'm thinking like, okay, wait, what do my players need now? Oh yeah, they're on this step. It'll just be there, and I can click it, and it will automatically open up that page that I need. So you can kind of build in tables of contents within a lot of these pages. And that's something that I utilize quite heavily, actually. I tend to actually link and hyperlink things so that I have this extremely complicated web of what links to what. And the way that I keep that in mind, keep track of everything, is basically once I finish a page, I will think about what I want that to be linked from. So here with the mission, the Summer Eladrin, what I'm going to do, since I have the page made, right, I'm going to copy the link to the page. Hey, how's it going? Jacob Furno. There's probably a specific way you want me to pronounce that, but I am garbage at that. So, but hey, welcome. Glad to see you here. I'm just kind of talking through some of the tools that I'm going to be utilizing. It's good. You got it. Perfect. Okay. All right. I pulled it off. What I should probably do is just pretend like I know what I'm doing all the time. That way people just think I'm actually cool. But I'm just kind of going through really quickly talking about using hyperlinks within OneNote, because I do often get questions about how I organize my OneNote notebooks and stuff, so I'm just kind of putting this here so even if people aren't here to listen to it, it exists in a VOD somewhere so people can see it, although I'm sure I will explain it oftentimes later. But at any rate, so to that point, what I'll do is I'll just right click here. You can copy the link to page, right? And so now I've copied the link that will take us there. So I can go in here in my sort of overall region outline that I've got going on here, right? So we've got, and this is the mission that we're working on. So I can do that and then paste it. And now we've got the link to it. And I just click that link and it opens up the page that I need, and it takes me right there. So even if my organization over here starts getting kind of messy, which it's gonna get messy because I got a lot of stuff to put in there, even if it starts getting messy, it's there, and that handles it, right? And that's the easiest way to do it, and that's why it's the other reason is that's why I insist on kind of doing things from broad and then get more detailed, so that way I can, there's not going to be much that I have to hyperlink this region page into, right? But there's a lot of stuff that will need to be linked into from that region page. And so, well, why is it being weird to me right now? There we go. No, it's being really weird to me. I don't know what it's doing right now. There we go. I must have accidentally clicked some sort of editing tool. But at any rate, so that's what it does, and that's how I decide how I know what to hyperlink where. Once I finish a page or where it exists, I basically copy that link and I put it anywhere else that I want to be able to go to that page from, right? So I finished making this, copied it, and I wanted to go there from there. Is this all my own, or is it pre-made? So it's my own world. This is an entirely homebrewed world that I'm working on. In fact, I can open up my world that I'm working on. Whoops, that's not the page I wanted. This is the page I wanted. It's entirely homebrewed world. The only thing in here that isn't mine is just the generalized appearance of these pages. There are templates that you can find for Microsoft OneNote, and they're created by other people, and I have shamelessly taken all of those other things that people have shared, because why reinvent the wheel, right? So like, this page background and stuff like that, and the designing and the word, like the font settings and everything like that, that is stuff that someone else has created. Although I have created sort of the templates that I use for fill in the blanks based on what information I want available. But thank you. Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. But yeah, this is my homebrew world, and it should be done loading now. Yeah, this is my world. This is the world of Zaoria, as I call it. And we are specifically right now working on just this hex in this little area right now. but yeah, that's what we're working on. And so we've been, I've been going through and sort of spent the time to really roughly outline everything that I wanted to have in this world. Thank you, I appreciate that. I'm glad you're impressed by it. Hopefully that means my players will be impressed by it too. But yeah, so we've gone through the process of outlining everything, just kind of doing the rough outlines of everything. And now that the rough outlines are done, I'm starting the painstaking process of doing details. Because for me, where all of this comes from is I actually, before I was even into D&D, as a hobby, I've always been, well, not always, but for quite a long time now, I've been a world builder. I love creating different worlds. I've got fantasy worlds, I've got a sci-fi world. One day I'd love to create just like a Lovecraftian horror type of world. I love building worlds. And that just sort of naturally rolls into being a DM, because really being a DM is you create a world for people to enjoy. And that's one of the things that I absolutely love about it, is I can create my world and then I can share it. So this world that I'm working on, Zaoria, is one that is the detail of this world is rather recent. It's a rather recent thing in comparison to all of my world building and stuff like that. But the concept of a fantasy world is something that I've been working on for almost a decade at this point. And really, Zaoria is just a place for me to sort of catch all. So as I build this world, I a lot of times will draw from old stuff that I've created and just kind of recycle it and stuff like that. It is a lot of work. It's definitely a lot of work. Well, it's a lot of work if it's not something you're super into. For me, that I'm super into it, it just feels like an awesome hobby that there's always more to do. It's like, to me, it's like what some people might view Legos as, where it's like there's always more stuff to build. You can always get more bricks, and you can always build more stuff, right? And so that's for me with this. It's like I can always come up with a new idea of like, oh, what if there's like a forest that has this, that, or the other thing, and it's like, oh, what if there was a desert that did this type of thing? So that's where it comes from for me. Yeah, and that's totally cool. That's totally cool if it's not your cup of tea. I mean, everyone's got their own stuff, and that's what makes, just life in general flavorful. And I apologize, I'm itching my nose, and I gotta stop doing that. Allergies are something else where I live this time of year. And my nose constantly itches, and I constantly need to remind myself to not do it. I am going to forget, and I'm going to itch it all day long, and it's going to make me look like a goddamn, Coke nose here. But yeah, so this is what we're working on. And so in this mission, just to give the quick rundown, so actually, there's a little context for this world, and I'm always happy to explain the context of this world. This world that I have here, the generalized state of it is it's a post-calamity type of world. So a couple thousand years ago, there was an event called, within my fiction, I call it the Unhinging. And it was this sort of catastrophic event where if you think about all of the different ethereal planes and whatnot existing together, I always imagine them as being like if you had a jar of various water, oil, sediment, all kinds of different things that form all those layers that you can kind of get in that type of jar. The unhinging is like if someone were to have taken that jar and shaken it all up so that different parts of different layers were suddenly displaced and thrown all over the place until you had this weird amalgamation of everything. And that's kind of what happened at the unhinging. And so then over the course of a couple thousand years, the layers have been starting to sort of percolate and resettle where they need to be, but it's still not perfect. And that's kind of the state of this world. And the reason that's relevant is because this mission that we're working on, the Summer Eladrin, as I'm calling it, just because that's the final boss, it focuses on this one creature, an Eladrin, who was existing in the Fey realm within this fiction, and was displaced during the unhinging. He was sort of ripped from his realm and thrown into the mortal plane. And so because of that, obviously, he's a little disoriented, a little grouchy about it, and he the history that I've described is he initially started off optimistic and determined, right? Like he kind of came to an understanding of what was going on, and he was like, okay, well, I can fix this. I can find a way to get back to my world. Unfortunately, because of how dangerous the unhinging made the world, he has, over the course of a couple thousand years, which he should not have survived that long, but because of the disruption of the magics and everything like that, he's sort of, it's warped him so that he has survived this long. And his sanity has largely deteriorated and is not exactly intact anymore. And his inability to find the information that he needed is something that he blames on the rest of the mortal plane, right? He essentially is convinced that there is a conspiracy against him to stop him and really any other displaced beings from leaving the mortal plane. And so because of that, this mission is he's basically waging his own personal war against the mortals within the main city up here, which is Bepamat. This is that hex that I was saying we're working on. Within Bepamat up here. He's convinced that they're conspiring against him, and he lives over down here to stop him from leaving. So basically this mission starts with his first attempt to try and overthrow this city in a way to sort of get back at them. And so that's kind of where we're at. We have that rough outline, and basically it's going to be a chase of players getting more clues, more information, and them essentially figuring out how to deal with this situation. Yes, it is very it's very detailed. It's very detailed, and that's kind of my MO. One of the things I love about world building is working everything from the biggest picture you can get in the world all the way down to as much detail as possible, to the point of I will at some point in time within this city be outlining every single shop that players can interact with. That's just what I do. It's what I do. It's what I've always done. And I love that detail because I love a world that feels real. I love a world that feels specific and feels ready to deal with to deal with whatever players can think of. Right? I don't like just having to. I mean, I certainly can improv, and inevitably there are plenty of things that I do have to improv. But I like there to be as much stuff ready for players. And I'm not a DM that's actually particularly bothered with the concept of players not experiencing things that I have written. I appreciate that. I've been told by my players that they appreciate my DMing, and that's what I aim for. So I appreciate that. I try to just make, really all I try to do is I try to make fun games for my friends. That's what it kind of boils down to. I just like making a place that's fun for my players to interact with. And that's why, and that really plays into why I like creating so much detail. I love for there to be so much detail that my players feel like there's always something more to explore, always something more to experience, always something more to have fun with in this world. Like just this region alone is meant to be sort of a quote-unquote campaign. It's a very sandboxy type of campaign, but a campaign that can take players from level 1 all the way to at least level 10 is sort of what my intention is with this region. And so I just love for it to be a world that even if players, like I take a lot of inspiration from video games where it's like you might beat the main storyline, the main quest line, but there are still so many other things that you can encounter, and that's kind of how I like to design my worlds, just in, spoken word form, as far as D&D goes. But that's kind of what we're working on. And so I've sort of outlined a rough history of what this Eladrin has gone through, which is what I just explained. This is just a more flowery way to explain that. And then I've also outlined sort of some of the thematic elements, primary tasks, and stuff like that. And this is a process that I always take the time to do, so that way, as I'm adding more and more detail, I always have a larger picture to go back to. Because I know with myself, the way I write and the way I create things, if I get too absorbed in the details, I tend to forget what my goal was overall. And that's another reason why I insist on starting broad and just slowly, zooming in until I'm focused on one little thing, one character, one dungeon, one shop, whatever it is. I start as broad as possible and I zoom in. So that way, if I'm working on something and I find myself sitting there like, well, what am I making this for again? What was the point of this? What should I be trying to steer this towards? I have these broader concepts that I've already explained, I've already thought of, that I can fall back on. So that way it stays consistent. That doesn't mean that I don't edit these things as I go sometimes. But if I have this broad, I have our thematic elements, I have our primary tasks. As long as I've got all that stuff in mind, then it's easy for me to go back to it and sort of course correct when I need to. So I've created that stuff. I've created our main villains, and this is something that I will add to as I go. But these are sort of the main villains that I've got. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it works for me. I think everyone who's got different writing styles will find different things that work for them. And that's like one of the most important components of creating worlds, is to find the system that works for you. Which is why I always say I offer recommendations. I don't offer correct or incorrect ways to do things. Yeah, so we've kind of outlined some villains here. These are the two villains that I know are going to exist, and there may be allies and there may be more villains that come into play. So this is something that I will definitely be editing as I keep adding more detail and keep constructing the set pieces and the story board, so to speak, of this mission as I keep going. But right now we have our Summer Eladrin, who is just our main villain, and this villain is not going to have a name. I like to add details. Like, one of the reasons I come up with so much detailed history about things is so that way I can just like plop in little chunks, little pieces, little bits of information, a journal entry here and there, even in a world of magic, a memory that can be encountered, an artifact, things like that. I love dropping little bits that add bits of detail, but the reason I do it that way and add little chunks is because I like there to be a mystery to it, right? Especially in this world where there's this huge catastrophic event that completely dismantled the world as they knew it. Most of the world has been left to what's called the wilds. So when the unhinging happened, so much chaos and so much danger ensued that everyone fled to basically whatever the nearest major city was. So you have about 13 cities, I think it's 13 last count I had, of very protected, fortified cities that everyone lives in. The rest of the world has just been, for a couple thousand years now, left to, the wilds, as it's called. That's what the world calls those parts, those uninhabited areas, the wilds. So within the wilds we have all kinds of just lost, abandoned cities, and those cities aren't intact. So you're not going to be able to find a cohesive narrative for any of it, but you can find hints, you can find pieces, and that's another thing that just makes the world feel very real. It's possible to find a lot of information, but you're never going to know any of it. You're never going to know all of it. It's kind of like us if we go into a cave and find cave drawings. It's like, sweet, we found these awesome cave drawings. We have no idea who it was that made these. We have no idea what culture was like there, but we can get a glimpse. We have a small little, there's a crack in the door that we can peek through, and learn a little bit. Let's see, what do we got? Yeah, no, absolutely. I love when players get distracted with stuff. That's why I create a whole bunch of missions and a whole lot of things going on there. I love when players get distracted with stuff. It's extra fun too because I keep notes on everything, and sometimes I'll make it so that if players ignore this, that, or the other plot for too long, then I can, because I've added so much detail about like the villains and the antagonists for any of this stuff, I can have that stuff, if they're taking too long and ignoring certain things, I can still have like a storyline, a plot progress. So that way it progresses without them, and again, it makes the world feel real, and it makes it feel to them like their choices matter. Because for me as a player, it's one of the most frustrating things. Well, I shouldn't say frustrating. It's one of the most it's one of the strongest ways to rip me out of immersion if I don't feel like there's any urgency to doing a quest, right? If I'm playing a video game, or if I'm playing if I'm a player in someone's D&D game, if I know that something will just wait for me indefinitely, it really lends itself to metagaming, which some groups enjoy. But for me, like, it's almost frustrating when it's like, well, it doesn't matter what order I do these things. It doesn't matter what I choose to do next, because ultimately we'll do all of it. So by adding so much detail, I can sort of progress things, right? And make it feel like their choices matter. I love doing that kind of stuff. I love all that kind of stuff. Just basically DM craft, right? Being the dungeon master, just the craft of being a good dungeon master is so much fun to me. It's so much fun trying to figure out more and more ways to make a game complex and interesting and fun for players. I love it. Absolutely love it. But at any rate, for this mission, we do have a couple. I have two sort of villains made out. Gregor Lofton here. He's not really even a villain. He's more of a victim. Because what the Summer Eladrin is doing is he's capturing and brainwashing people and trying to turn them into assassins, is essentially what he's trying to do. And so Gregor here is the first such assassin. That's a lot of asses to say. He's the first one in this sort of war against Bephomet. And he's sort of the hook for this whole mission. It's a random thing that can occur. I utilize random tables like nobody's business in my games. But a random event that can occur is Gregor will be busted while trying to assassinate the king of the city. And players can, if they want to, sort of basically insert themselves on the process. They can try and learn more about it. They can try and go into it. It requires a certain amount of players taking initiative to catch on to this thing this early. But, you know, if I know anything about D&D players, it's that they absolutely will inevitably suffer from main character syndrome, where they will insist upon inserting themselves in any event that happens because they're the main characters. They're the heroes. They have to. Oh, boy. Oh, my gosh. My nose is itching so bad right now. Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. And it always, like, itches. It always itches on the tip of my nose, too. So it's just like, oh gosh, it's so bothersome. So bothersome. I need to just like get some aloe or something. Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate that. I think it's cool, and my players seem to like it. But that's so that's where we're at. And so at this point in time, the next thing to work on here is our detailed steps. And so within the context of this mission outline that I'm working on here, I'm basically going to, like I said, we've got hooks and details, and it's basically, this is just a way for me to sort of tie in and organize all of the other pages that are going to be for the dungeons. So we've got our dungeon template here, and this is a template, and I'll fill in the blanks basically for each dungeon. This particular mission, I've planned out about 10 dungeons for it to encompass. So there's a lot of work to get this mission done, but it's sort of the biggest, most overarching mission that exists in this region. And so what I'm actually going to do is start working on one of the dungeons, and then we will come back here and we will fill in this sort of like, you know, our sort of back panel description of that dungeon into here once the dungeon is complete. So what I want to do now is we're just going to copy our dungeon template here, come down here, paste it, and there's our dungeon template. So the first dungeon, and we can go back to our steps here. Let's see here. So what did we say for this event? King of Bephomet, but fails, only just escaping the dusty streets of the city after losing his hand. Players can partake in the hunt for the criminal, eventually finding him in an abandoned house just outside of the city. So the dungeon for this one is going to be don't use dungeons like the idea. It can be hard to figure out a good way to have players enter and exit dungeons. It's like, I definitely hear where you're coming from, and there are a lot of times where I will forego a dungeon, and even if I've pre-made a dungeon, sometimes I'll end up forgoing it based on what the sort of energy and atmosphere of the players is. But I like always having one, particularly these days, because you know, the nature of COVID has made it so that a lot of my games, most of my games, not all of them now that we're starting to get vaccines and stuff going in our groups, but a lot of our sessions have been online. And so creating a dungeon just sort of helps players visually understand online where it is they are, since it's hard for me to, when it's remotely, just like quickly, like, here, let me take a piece of paper and just quickly draw something, right? I might do that a lot. But I like having dungeons for that. The other thing too is one of the benefits of having dungeons is it makes it a lot easier to seamlessly bounce between exploring and combat, I find. Because combat, at least with my groups, they prefer the structure of having a map, like a battle map. And so if I create an entire map and have an entire dungeon outlined, that way it's like they're exploring the dungeon, and as long as they move their characters to whatever room they're working on, then it's like if they invoke combat, all we gotta do is roll initiative, and we know where everyone is, we know the layout of the area, and it gives them the opportunity to use more dungeon. I often notice that when my players are, when they're confined to, like when we don't use a dungeon, they really only think about the room they're in. But if I have a whole map for a whole dungeon, a lot of times they will start getting very creative, and they'll start utilizing doorways in other rooms. They'll remember, like, oh, but I saw this one statue in this other room that would be, if I can lure them, maybe we can knock over the statue because it was already damaged, or like there was a pillar or there was a pit. And so that's those are the things that I like having a dungeon for. That said, if dungeons don't do it for you and your groups, then by all means don't do them. I mean, D&D is fun. Who's here? Professional Dungeon League, Dungeon Master, Professional Dungeons and Dragons League, where it's like they're playing for competition or something like that. Like, who does that? It's all fun. It's 100% fun. So whatever's the most fun for your group, do it that way. Absolutely do it that way. So if your group doesn't do dungeons, or if you as a DM don't like doing dungeons, then don't do dungeons. It's the way to do it. But those are the reasons why I like to do dungeons. It's just me personally. But so we're gonna work on the city here. So yeah, I mean, just keep it in mind. Use it if it comes in handy. Completely disregard it if it doesn't have a place in your games. That's the way to do it. Like I say, I never say that I'm presenting a right way or a wrong way to do it. I'm only presenting my way of doing it. And if there's things to take from, then great. But if you don't want to use it, then don't, by all means. But this is why I kind of really enjoy streaming the process, because I think it definitely has already sparked so many, since I started doing this, so many cool conversations, and I think it makes anyone who participates in the conversation a better DM. And isn't that what we all want, right? More better DMs. That's the way to do it. So I'm going to load up Dungeon Draft here, because I want to start working on outlining a dungeon for my players. Now, the way I always do it is I always think about the size. So we're going to do a new one here. I always do 34 by 22 tiles every time. And there's a very good reason that I do it that way. Very specific reason. That is a reason that will be useless to almost everyone else. The reason I use 34 by 22 tiles is because when we're in person, I have a map, a grid map, that is 34 by 22 tiles. So that way, whenever I design something in here, if we're in person and I want to use it, I know I've got the space that I need to draw it out real quick, and we can transfer the map and use it in real person with minifigures and stuff like that. That is literally the only reason I do it that size, but I insist on doing it that size every time exactly for that reason. Plus, it means I don't have to sit here and hem and haw, because the other thing about me is I have the tendency to make dungeons a little bigger than they need to be, so this pens me into a pretty good size of dungeon. And it just makes dungeons feel very lively, because if it's a smaller dungeon filled with lots of stuff, players get very excited about every single room. Whereas in my excitement about dungeons, I tend to make them very big, but then I end up having a lot of rooms that have nothing. And who the fuck wants that? That'd be such a terrible dungeon to explore. So we're going to do this, and for this one, just to start, I'm going to start off with the map wizard. So this tool that I'm using, Dungeon Draft, I absolutely love it. The reason I use this one is because it creates a lot of it has the ability to create dynamic rooms and lighting and stuff like that then transfers into the Foundry virtual tabletop, which is what we use for our online games. So it plays hand in hand, and it makes things a very, one of the things that's hard about online sessions is we're not there, and so it takes away a lot of the interactive stuff. So by having a system that makes it really fun and interactive, at least on screen, it at least in a different way makes it as fun. So hey, fanboy, yeah, large empty rooms, everyone's favorite rooms. They love having a big giant cavern that has nothing going on in it. It's everyone's favorite. And golly, my nose is itching so bad. This is a rough day, man. Rough day. I feel like when I'm sitting here doing these streams, it gets worse because I'm doing all this talking and I have these big headphones, and I feel like the talking just kind of creates this small buzz of vibration on the headphones that ends up being like a feedback on my face of vibration, and it just makes the itches on my nose feel worse. That's my theory. Because I feel like it always gets worse when I sit down to stream. Oh, man. I don't know. I'm probably full of shit, but that's what I feel like. At any rate, I'm going to start with the map wizard. So this program does have they call it the map wizard, where it will sort of create a rough outline. And I'm going to do that because I don't really have anything specific in mind. So we're going to start with the map wizard, and then I can just edit things as I need to. So we're just going to click OK. It's going to load default assets. It's going to kind of create something for us here. Maybe it's going to load up the thing here. And so I can so now we've got our map wizard, our generator here. It's going to be a dungeon, not a cave. So boundary, that's just how far away from the edges it'll keep things, and we'll keep it away from the edge just a little bit. Density and complexity. So I don't know that I want the complexity to be very, very high. So the idea, what I do have in mind for this is I want to create a city block. All right, because this first dungeon, it's going to be in the main city, and it's basically going to be a hunt for a fugitive. What I want to create is a city block where there are a whole bunch of houses scattered around, and players can interact with the different buildings and stuff that they'll find, the different alleys and stuff to try and find him. And I'm basically just going to plop him down and have him hiding somewhere. And it's sort of like playing hide and seek is sort of what the goal of this dungeon is going to be. That's the other thing too, just for anyone. I use the term dungeon very loosely. A dungeon does not necessarily mean a cave or a wizard's hideout or anything like that. I use the term dungeon almost more like instance. So that's kind of what I do. Hey, thanks for the follow, Jacob. I appreciate you stopping by, and yeah, totally. If you want to check out any of my stuff, you can see on my Twitch channel and on my YouTube channel. I upload the VODs, so if you want to see some of the other stuff we've been working on, or if you want to watch the rest of this stream once I'm done with it, check either of those out. I'm cool with you watching them on either platform. I have no preference, and I just appreciate that you had a good time. So thanks for stopping by, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future. But at any rate, I want this to be a city block. It'll be like a scavenger hunt type of thing. And this is going to be a really fun one, too, when I set it this way, because it's going to be a real place with real NPCs, right, that are just civilian folk. What I want to do is I want to set this up so that there are going to be a lot of tempting scenarios for players to treat this like a dungeon. But then they have to think about, like, oh, are they going to actually do that? Looting, things like that. There's going to be lots of rooms with different stuff to loot, and they're going to have to think about, like, oh, shoot, we think he's in this building. Should we just barge in, or are people going to get pissed off at us? Especially because the players are not going to be guards or anything like that. They're not going to be city guards. They're not cops. So, like, what on earth are they going to do about that? I think it's going to be fun. So we got stone, cave floor. What's that? Carpet. Not carpet. Do they even have carpet in D&D World? I'm not going to worry about it. We'll just do stone because that'll look pretty dirt-like. And oh my gosh, my nose is driving me crazy. I might have to pause and get like some cream or something. Oh my gosh. Because it's like the outside of the nose that ends up itching. It's really weird. Whew. Okay. But, yeah, we'll do that, and then I just want to do stone walls, I think. We do stone walls with stone floors, and then we'll see what that ends up making things look like. Although, actually, if we do stone floors, it's going to create a lot of rooms, and if we just get rid of any hallways they do, and then add doors, that'll end up looking like a city block. So I do want to increase the density, though. I do want this to be a very dense, like lots of small houses, like a small residential area is kind of what I'm thinking of for this. So let's just generate. Let's see what it creates for us. Alright, that's something. Okay, kind of want to increase density even more. Let's just see what happens if we add even more density to it. Alright. Okay. Because see, we can get rid of all these hallways, right? And then we can barrier these off so it can almost be like other houses. And we can just add a couple extra houses here. It can just be like a sprawling random thing. And I'm fine with this not necessarily fitting and organized streets with houses in a row. Because much of the city, back when the unhinging happened, much of the city would have been converted into like a refugee camp type of setting. And so I think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of the city to have kind of been reconstructed with that layout being the driving force, right? So there are a lot of things where it's like a house was eventually built where some people had just sort of set up a tent for shelter, and then that just kind of became the family plot, and land was redistributed that way and stuff like that. So I like the idea of things being kind of complex and chaotic. That doesn't matter. I don't care about that. I like that idea. So let me just generate a couple more. That one's not bad. I can put like a little house in there. I can separate these off and have these be two separate houses that just bump up against each other. Put like a house up there, something like that. Okay, I like this one. I like this one. So we're going to do that. And now, let's do our design tool here. So I have to remember how I'm supposed to erase things. Hold Alt to erase. So I think if we, yeah, there we go. So we can erase these. So let's get rid of our hallways, right? Because this is all going to be open and it's all going to be streets. So let's get rid of those. Okay. Separate, and I want there to be, so as always I do my 10 room thing. And what's going to be fun about this one, right, I've got my 10 room template, so many of them are going to have enemies to fight, so many of them are going to have traps and stuff like that. I like the idea of the enemies that they might encounter being belligerent families who are pissed off at people barging into their homes. And for traps, I like the idea of it being like weird, janky home security that people have set up because they're out at work or something. I think that would be really fun. I think it'd be really entertaining ways to do it. And then plopped around, probably what I'll do is there are some areas where it's supposed to be like treasure or places to be calm and relaxed. Instead, I'll fill those areas with people who are more aware of what's happening and will try and help the players find out where this one guy went. You know, like it'll be someone sitting on their porch. It's like, oh, he went that way, you know, and let it kind of be done that way. Is what I want to do for it. So we're going to building tool. Yeah, we're going to keep these same things. I'm thinking we can put like, be kind of interesting to do one house right there, just like that. We'll have to do wall barriers, but we'll get there. And I'm going to put one right there. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We need one more. One more. Maybe we'll tuck just a small house up there, and we'll put a wall right there. So if we do that, I want battlements, I want stone. So we'll do that, separate them that way. Looks kind of off. They don't really look like separate buildings the way the walls end up doing things, but I'm not gonna sweat over it too much, I think. Do a wall there. A wall there. So there's our 10 houses, right? And so these are just going to be various degrees of shanties. It's kind of in a poorer part of town, and the guy's hiding somewhere. So, and now I want to just randomly, assign each room a number, right? Because that's going to be our values for each one. Is there a text tool? There is. So I can do font color. Let's just make that white. I think white will show up pretty well here. I think if we do white, we can do, yeah, that'll show up really well. Okay, so we'll just do that. And what I'm going to do, because this is Dungeons and Dragons, and because it is a dice game, I'm going to pull out my wonderful dice bag with my dice, and we are just going to roll, and we're going to randomly assign them. It'll be without replacement, so after a while it'll probably take a couple rolls. but we'll start off with just a D10, and we're just going to assign the rooms, you know? Why not? Why not do it that way? It's fun. It makes me feel like I'm playing D&D right here, right now. So we're just going to... So I need to figure out how to do it. So it's right there. Okay, yeah. We'll just do it on the upper right-hand square, and then I'll probably... I don't know. I'll probably... Well, no, I'll probably have to leave them there, because I always do that to reference things, and I always just tell my players, ignore the numbers. They're just there for my reference, so I know which room corresponds to which information. And usually that level of meta isn't too much for players to handle. They're pretty okay with that. So this first room is going to be room number 6. Phew. The next room, we'll just go through. It doesn't really matter because it's all random. Next room is that's number 1. Ooh, there we go. This one is room number 7. This one is going to be house number 8. Look at that, we still haven't had replacement yet. Odds are going to be stacking against us, though, to go without replacement pretty soon. Ah, there we go. There's our 6. There's our 6 again. Okay, 9. There we go. That's room 9. Let's do this one next. Because why not, right? It doesn't really matter. Hey, Spooky, how's it going? Glad to see you here. We are randomly assigning numbers to each of these rooms for the sake of dungeons. 6 we've already got. 1 already got. 8 already got. 3. Oh yeah, we don't have room 3 assigned yet. So that's room number 3. This one's going to be... Ah, we already got that one assigned. Number 2. We got 3 more. Getting close. Getting close, baby. Well, maybe. We got 5. I don't think we got 5 yet. No, we don't have 5 yet. Alright, what do we have left? It's 4. It's between 4 and 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 is covered 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. Ah, and 10. There it is. And then that will make this one room number 4. Boom! Okay, so there's our rooms assigned. So now we know when we're working on details for any given room, we know which room we're putting those details in. That'll help me sort of balance our space and everything. Oh, we do need to do some portals. We're just going to put some doors here. Let's see here. A door to this house. We'll put that like right there. This one we'll put right there. I don't know. This one we'll say it goes open to right there. This one opens up maybe there. This one's maybe there. This one, how about we put that one right there? And then this one maybe opens there. This is a nice big house. This is a rich person's house over here in the shanty town. Door right there. This one goes right there. And maybe this one opens up right there. There we go. So there's all of our doors for players to go through. Each of these should have at least one window, I think. So let's add some windows to each of these. Let's see. We'll do this one because they are stone walls there. So we'll put like a window there. Each one of these will have 1, maybe 2 windows. Maybe this one will have 2 windows. Put windows right there. Put window right there. This one, maybe it's got a window there. Maybe this one's got a window right there. How about this one? We'll put a window there and put a window there and there. That one will have 2 windows. This is a pretty big one. This one might have 2 windows. Do a window there and a window there. This one's a nice big rich person's home, so we're gonna put a few windows on this one. Look at that. They're living fancy with a couple different windows. And keep in mind, when I say windows, I kind of have this image in my head that these are all like sort of like parchment covered windows or something like that. Oh shit, we're getting raided. Oh damn. Oh, things are gonna get nuts in here. Thank you for the raid. Hello everybody, welcome. Holy shit. This is gonna get all kinds of wacky in here now, isn't it? Oh god. Oh god. What's up guys? Welcome, welcome. We are creating a dungeon here. I can just kind of give a rough explanation of the dungeon we're making. It's a dungeon, loose fit of the term. It's a city block, and the no, see that's just it, Roller. We're not gonna connect the rooms because this is a city block, and the point of this dungeon is that it's a fugitive hunt. There's a guy who is running away from the guards, and the players have the opportunity to try and hunt him down. So he disappears into this little block within a shanty village, and is hiding out. And so I'm kind of creating a network of random shanties that are around for players to sort of, explore. And that's what all of these little windows are going to be, right? There's windows for them to try and peek through. There's doors for them to try and barge down. All of these, some of these places are going to be like one room. Some of these are going to be like, this one's going to be broken up into a couple rooms, which will make the windows varying levels of difficult, and it's going to be up to the players to try and find. Hey, thanks for the follow, Pika. That's an awesome name. I love that name. But that's what we're working on here. And the thing that's going to be fun about it too is lock the doors. Some of the doors are going to be locked. Yep, some of the doors will be locked. The other thing that's going to be fun is most of these places are going to be inhabited. So they're going to have to decide: do we just barge in all of these houses and piss off all of the neighbors and everything, or not? You know, it's going to be up to the players how they want to handle it. But basically, I'm just creating, you know, a part of the city that that there's a fugitive somewhere in and around here, and they need to find this fugitive, but who knows? Connecting secret tunnel, connecting the buildings. I love that idea in general, and I have created dungeons with that. But thematically, that's not going to be something in this one. Like I say, this is sort of a shanty town that they're exploring at this point in time, and so none of the shanties are going to be really interconnected, because it's just like small houses that have sort of been built up from what were originally tents in sort of like a refugee city. And it's just sort of grown into more permanent residences that way. So that's what we're working on here. And so I've put in some windows here for people. Now what I want to do is I want to take my wall tool, and I want to try and... some of these I'm going to separate, you know, bisect into multi-room homes. I think this is going to be a cool one to do a multi-room home. And we'll put that one right there, so it's like that window's only useful for that part. I am going to want a door in there, so before I forget it, we're just going to put a door right there. How about right there? Yeah. So we'll do that. Let's see here. Yeah, no, they definitely have not established an underground pilfering ring in this shanty village. Not yet, anyway. They're working on it. That's in the works. The city zoning commission is just trying to figure out exactly where to put all of these secret prohibited tunnels. This place is big enough to have a separate room. I'm going to... yeah, there's two rooms. Oops. There we go. So there's a room right there. Let's say I want to put a door there so I don't forget. We'll put a door right there. Some of these, like the internal door, might already be open and stuff like that. Like, it's going to be good. This is going to be a fun dungeon. I'm actually already really excited about this for whenever my players get to it, which, you know, might be years from now. Who knows? But it's going to be there. And this one's going to have 2 bedrooms. This is a rich person shanty. I'm going to do that. We need some doors again. Door and door. Let's see. We'll leave that one as a 1-room situation, but then I'm thinking this one can be 2 rooms because they got 2 windows. So they've got a window for that room and a window for that room there. We'll add a little door there. Add a little door. Trust me, I would know something about government slowing stuff down. As my day job, I'm a government employee, and believe me, I'm well aware of our propensity for making things take longer than they have to. It's usually not our fault. Usually the employees want to. It's a matter of getting funding for it, because people do not like paying taxes, so it's a struggle for us to have the funding we need to do a lot of the stuff we'd like to have. And then once we do get the funding, because it's tax dollars, we need to be able to demonstrate to everyone involved that it's a good use of tax dollars. Definitely slows things down. A latrine. That's actually not a bad idea, although I feel like in a shantytown it'd be like there's an outhouse up here or something like that. I actually really like that idea. Because I'm pretty sure if I go into our... no, not the terrain. Into our object tool, I'm pretty sure they have toilets. Yeah, they totally have toilets. We'll just make it a completely outdoor one. God, it's a shantytown. I almost feel like it would just be like kind of tucked in the corner here or something like that. A chance for a liar's dice mini game. Probably not in this dungeon. I don't know. I haven't thought exactly about what sorts of puzzles and mini events within this dungeon there are going to be. I haven't quite gotten to that. I'm just kind of working on the framework, but I love the latrine idea. I also love the idea of like the communal latrine just being out here, so that these poor people, like, despite it being a large house, have to deal with the smell of everyone's shit in their communal toilets, in their communal crapper. I actually really enjoy that idea. Yeah, this is like full-blown medieval, where they basically just have like a wooden log that you can, like, you know, squat over to give you support while you just take a dump in like a ditch that's off to the side or something like that. This is the squalor part of town. There's no sewer system going on here. I'm just gonna do it. Like, screw it, right? Screw it. There's latrines there. I like the idea too of players having to explore that, but having that absolutely not be where the guy is. So like they would have to climb in and stick their head in or something like that, and there would just be absolutely nothing that would come of it. I'm in love with that idea. I appreciate that idea. Appreciate that idea. Fallen one. There's a letter beforehand, but the font makes me question whether it's an L or an I. It's not my fault. It's the font. Any rate, yeah. So we've got those. We've got doors and windows. The rest of the details are going to be based on what we put in the room. So let's pull up our template here. So we're working on our dungeon template here. We're gonna call this dungeon, and because this is happening in our city, we're gonna call it Met Fugitive Chase. That's exactly where I have them hide. That's not a bad idea. Oh, gotcha. Okay, it's just fallen. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, no, that would be. It's always the last place you look, right? Just always make it, no matter where they go, 100% every time it's the last room they check. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of having it be quite that convenient for the sake of making it challenging for them. I always sort of pre-plan where everything is, so that way players can get lucky and they can just find them in the first place they explore, right? Or if they're attentive enough and they get good enough investigation rolls, they can find it first. They can find them first chance. I prefer to do my dungeons like that just because I know players like to feel like they have a chance. Where did I find the template for OneNote? Yes, I get asked this all the time. So in terms of appearance, I don't even remember where I found it. It was so long ago that I found these things. I just Googled it, and I just went in and I Googled D&D OneNote templates. And you can download the templates that way. There's a lot of people have made a lot of different templates, and this is just the one that I personally liked the best. People have them all over the place. So as far as the appearance goes, that's how I did that. As far as like all of this writing in here, that's all me. All of this stuff, like where I have the setting, the villains and allies, basically what I tried to do a long time ago is I basically just went through the process of thinking about, if I'm making a dungeon, what things do I want to make sure I include in it? And I basically just created myself a fill-in-the-blank template. So that way I can just go through, and that way I never forget anything. And it also helps me a lot with writer's block. Because I find it's very easy to get sort of overwhelmed when you have a lot of ideas. It can get overwhelming to just think about where to start. So by having this template, I can basically just go like, well, let's just start working on it. Like, okay, so we've got our history, we've got our thematic elements and stuff like that, and so we can just like start filling stuff in as we need to. That's just the way to do it. Now for this one, a lot of this is going to be pretty easy. So for this dungeon, the setting, the history of it, is going to be... Oh, shit, we're getting raided again. Oh, my God. This is a second raid in a row. This is nuts. Everything's going crazy. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are working on a city. This is a good session to have a bunch of people raiding on, because this is going to be a pretty cool dungeon that we're working on here. Although I got to pay attention to chat, because things are going to explode, and I don't want to miss anyone. 4 possible places he's hiding. Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea. Just have a couple possible endings, and just like based on how long the session is going, you know, decide like, oh, the first place they tried, well, that's pretty quick and short, you know, and like have them be in another one or something like that. That's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. Although actually, what I'm thinking more so for this one, the guy that they're searching for, that final thing, make him mobile. So it's like every place they check, maybe he has the chance to move to like one of the other next door places or something like that, right? Or like he can move through one door for every place, every location they check. So they might catch him when he's out trying to run from house to house or something like that. I'm considering doing something like that. But I don't know. There's so many things to think about for this one. And that's, again, why I love having my templates, because I hate getting analysis paralysis. So if I have my templates, we're good to go. And so since we have our framework for the dungeon here, I think we're ready to start doing some of this information here. Intended player level. So a lot of this stuff up here is just like quick note stuff, so that way if I'm just trying to search for a random dungeon that's detached even from the story, I just need a good setting. It's like, oh, well, I can just pull this one, and it'll have monsters and puzzles that are appropriate for the level that my players are. So intended player level, this is going to be for a group of level 1 players. I always organize my dungeons. I always play my dungeons so that they're balanced for a group of 5 players at a specific level. So that way it's like, oh, well, if we have fewer than 5 players, it might be just challenging, but they can probably still handle it. If they have more than 5 players, it might be easier, but it's still a good level of challenge for them. And then, or if they're level above or below, it still feels kind of realistic, because it's like, hey, if they've properly prepared and they're over-leveled for it, then this will be an easy dungeon for them. And it just kind of helps the world feel like it exists without my players. So that's kind of how I balance things. That's what that's about. Number of room sets. So this is going to have 1 set. I organize all of my dungeons to have 10 rooms, and then I have, as you can see down here with the template, different rooms. Oh, thank you for the follow. Turtle Guild. Oh, shit, the whole Turtle Guild is following. I appreciate that, though. Thank you, and welcome. But I've got 10 rooms that I sort of pre-plan, that just to make sure I have like a good amount of variation in every dungeon. I don't always use every room. I sometimes change them. I'll add extras. I'll reduce the number of this, that, or the other room. But I start off with that as just a baseline to do that. And as things get more complicated, as players get higher level and dungeons are organized for higher level players, I will, at certain intervals, add new sets. So that way it's like, oh, so there's actually 20 rooms or 30 rooms. And basically just do that, so that way once they get to real high levels, it kind of turns into like, when they're level 20 exploring some sort of BBEG type of dungeon or something like that, we're talking like mega dungeon situation where it's like there's a full-blown labyrinth here for them. And that's just how I do things, because I'm systematic and almost obsessive about that. But yeah, so that's what the number of room sets is meant to be there. Let's see here, hold on. Let's see, could use an IRL timer, not a bad idea. And not a bad idea. The only problem I have with using IRL timers is I always feel the need to be ready to start and stop it all the time, because if they get on just like, because I just play with my friends, so if they get on just a tangent, just sitting there shooting the shit with each other, I don't like to detract from that, because we're primarily just playing to have fun hanging out with each other. So if they get distracted, there's like, we don't play these games as a serious thing to force ourselves to pay attention. It's something for us to do on a Saturday. So in some groups, a real-life timer would be an excellent idea. For my groups, I question whether that would work. At least for my current groups. I've had some groups that would actually be an excellent idea. But as a baseline idea, I like that one, Piper. DM book has a nice table for chase scenes instructions. Yeah, that's actually a good point. I don't always remember to pull out my DM book, and I should do that from time to time. I'll probably do that when the stream is over. I'll take a look there and see if I want to modify whatever we end up doing. Hey, thanks for the follow, Piper. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. But yeah, I like that idea, but I don't want to sit here and read the book in front of you guys. That would be really fucking boring, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be like the worst stream ever? Like, I mean, I could like read it out loud or something like that, but it's like, yeah, this asshole is just sitting here reading a book. But it's a good idea, though. I should look at that and refresh myself. I don't do chase scenes very often. I usually do that much more, do a dramatic reading. I'll read it like, I'll see if I can get my voice up there and really, really scratch it up and sound like Gilbert Gottfried. When doing a chase scene, make sure... God damn, can you imagine doing that? God, that would destroy my throat, and I think everyone would unfollow and leave me. That'd be the worst. Be the absolute worst. I do like reading out loud, but I ain't gonna do that here. I feel like there'd be copyright issues, really, right? Very emotional and dramatic. Could do Will Shatner. When doing a chase scene. I don't know. I gotta get off this tangent. This well is rapidly running dry, and people are gonna get tired of it real quick. Let's see. Oh wait, hold on. Near city. It's in Bepimat, so that's a pretty easy one. I always do that so that way if I'm just randomly searching for dungeons, I can just find one that's in the area, right? Because we're working on this whole map here. We're working on this one little section here. So my players find themselves in this area, and I need a random dungeon. I can just like kind of know what's nearby and know all the stuff nearby. So that's what we're working on. Hey, Dr. Smile, how's it going, man? A long time no see. I'm doing all right. Hope you can say the same, man. Welcome. Glad to see you here. Glad to see you. An aggressive drunkard. Okay. Unreasonable. Whoever finds them is to figure out how to deal with them. I like that, Fallen. I like that. They deal with them, the more likely they are to lose that guy. Absolutely. I love that idea. Like, we could just plop down some drunk-ass motherfucker just sitting here like at a clinch point, too. Like, right here. So, like, we've got a bunch of different doors and windows that they might want to use. There's, like, a drunk guy that's just pacing back and forth in this area. And he's just like super belligerent and just tries to pick a fight with everyone. That's not a bad idea too. I love that idea. God, I love streaming the writing process exactly for this. Like, there's so many creative motherfuckers sitting here in the chat. So, been busy, Dr. Smile. Yeah, you know what? I feel that life is always busy, and that's why I know I miss my evening streams. But because of my time schedules and stuff and different projects I've got going on, I've had to start doing them in the afternoon for me, and it changed the time for everything. And so that's why I'm doing them at these times. But I'm glad you were able to stop by at least every once in a while. I appreciate that, man. I really do. I really do. A cockfighting ring? That's not a bad idea. I feel like that would take up more space than we have in this map at this point in time. We could put that inside one of the buildings. It's like one of the distractions inside the building. There's an illegal cockfighting ring, and so they go in there and suddenly they have to deal with a bunch of people who are like, oh no, you can't leave. Like, you know, thinking that they're going to tell the authorities or something like that. That'd be a good one. Yeah, exactly, Fallen. He just starts picking fights with everyone. It's not a bad idea. Oh my gosh, you guys have so many cool ideas. I love this. Let's see, current overlord of this area. So I always do that just so that way it's like I have in mind, like if they do some sort of region-altering things or like local things that impact the entire local area rather than just that dungeon, who's going to be pissed off at them or who's going to be thankful. And so for this one, it's going to be, or rather, it's the queen, because Bepimat has a queen, not a king. Did I put that information in here? I should have. If I didn't, I should have. I did not add that information, I don't think. I know it exists, but we're just gonna, yeah, all we're gonna do, here's what we'll do. We're just going here. Current overlord, Queen of City. There we go. Alright. Are they official in any way? That's going to be up to the players. I run my games and I design my world in a very open world sandbox type of way. So if they do stuff that put them in good favor of the authorities of the city, then perhaps they'll have some official stuff. If they're just butting their noses into things, maybe they won't, and they'll have to deal with consequences. Most often, my players do not take the time to, they very rarely will take the time to to establish any sort of authoritative role for themselves. They will usually just be like, we'll do something good and the people will be thankful for it. And then they get like super Pikachu face surprised when the authorities are like, no, you can't just come in here and be all vigilante about this shit. Like, we have rules about this. Which is one of my favorite things because they never ever learn and they always get themselves into that situation. And it always makes things really fun and dynamic for them. So that's one of my favorite things. Hey, Inflatable Cat, how's it going? Welcome to the stream here. Maybe in some sketchy countries. Man, this whole world is sketchy. Tell you what, this whole world is sketchy. That's the whole point of this world. Is whoops, wrong one. We not that one. Everything is sketchy. History of this area. I mean, it's a shanty town. So we'll just say history. This is a poor section of the city where shanties have developed, where once there were simple, refugee tents. Not much wealth to be found here. Makes it a real mixed bag on the attitudes players will encounter when barging into houses. Boom. Let's see. I'm doing great. I'm doing great, Inflatable Cat. It's been a good day. It's been a good day after the weekend. It looks like the editor, my cat, is going to come and insert herself on the stream, which is always good. She's very helpful. You can see her little ears up here. Yeah, we just woke up from a nap, and so we want to just come and insert ourselves in whatever it is that I'm doing. Let's see. What do you got for me, Fallen? Let's see here. Have some random other NPC in a house who immediately thinks they're a criminal trying to... Oh, no, absolutely, Fallen. That's 100% what's going to be happening in this one. Like I say, because regardless of if they do have any recognition from the guards, they are not actually guards. Or at least, if they are, they will have done a whole lot of other side mission things to make themselves guards. The groups that I've got going on, one group actually isn't even in this area. They're in a completely different part of the world. We're not working on their stuff right now. They've got plenty of stuff already sort of mapped out, and so I'm letting that one just kind of cruise for the time being. The group that I'm working on right now, they're self-proclaimed pirates. Is what they wanted to do. So that's yeah, no, there's nothing official about the players in this one. And there's nothing, the way I set up my games, there's nothing saying that they would be official unless they went out of their way to obtain any sort of official clearance for anything. So it is very unlikely that the citizenry would be cool with them just busting down doors and entering homes, which is what's going to make this kind of fun. And that's why, so a lot of the rooms that I have pre-planned, I mentioned I do 10 rooms. A lot of them are combat-based rooms. The combat in this one are absolutely going to be angry homeowners who are like, you can't just walk in here. And so they're just going to be civilians who want to get in fistfights with them. It's 100% what it's going to be, and it's going to be up to the players to decide, do we engage or do we accept that we did something wrong? Yeah, no, absolutely, Fallen. It's 100% going to be hilarious. I love putting my players in these situations where they have to decide, like, the easiest route is rarely the morally acceptable route. I love setting up situations like that, making players choose what level of consequence are they willing to accept when trying to achieve whatever they're after. I love doing that to my players because they almost always choose the quickest A to B route, which almost always gets them in big trouble. Whether it's because they piss off another bad guy, they always do that kind of stuff, and I love that. I love that because it makes it fun for me too, right? Like, I'm making a game that's supposed to be fun for my players, but damn it, I want to have fun too. And it's hilarious to me to watch my players just get themselves in trouble and be like, well, what gives? I'm like, well, did you barge into someone's house without knocking first? What did you expect? So there's our history. Thematic elements here. So thematic elements, this is, again, I do this type of stuff just to keep myself focused. So if I ever get distracted or lose sight of what I'm working on in a dungeon, I can come back to here and at least kind of get some ideas. So enemy types and themes, right? So this is just going to be enemies are largely innocent, civilians, boy, if I could spell today, civilians who don't like their doors kicked in. Also the fugitive. So that's just the basic theme there. Like, we're in a residential area. Current boss in the dungeon. So this one is going to be so the current boss is let's see here. So this is the fugitive, and his name is let's see, we already kind of got his name. Gregor Lofton is what I named him. We'll just go ahead and copy and paste that there rather than trying to respell that. I don't really know what I was thinking. The fugitive. Let's ununderline that. Isn't there a movie called The Fugitive? Isn't that what's his face? Han Solo. Frickin', what's the actor's name? Why am I blanking on his name? Harrison Ford. Is there a Harrison Ford movie? It was based off a Tom Clancy book. I don't know. Yeah, exactly, Fallen. They're like, they bring the guy to the guards, and the guards are like, no, you're under arrest too. Like, for different reasons, but you're under arrest. Like, I could definitely see that kind of thing, and they have to sort of, like, explain to the authorities and then, like, cut a deal where it's like, okay, we did something good, but we also did some bad stuff, so it's like, we'll pay for damages, and we helped you out, so don't put us in jail or something like that. Like, I absolutely love putting my players in situations like that. Like, you guys got to figure out how to get away with this. Like, you guys got to figure out the mess you're in. My favorite was the time. How did it go down? This is a story. Okay, story time. My favorite that ever happened with this. There were players, and they were out traveling, and they were assaulted by a child that was possessed. In the process of trying to handle this, like they were assaulted by a child who was possessed. In the middle of a populated area, right? So there were people watching them as they did all of this. They didn't do hardly anything to try and restrain the child. They basically just knocked the child unconscious. And in the process of all this going on, they were in sort of like a farming community. They lit fire to a farmhouse and a whole bunch of crops using various magical means. Naturally, the authorities came and arrested them. They were so offended that I made the authorities arrest them. And I was like, from everyone else's point of view, you knocked out a child, lit fire to their fields, and had the nerve to start, because then after that, they started fighting the guards, too, to try and get away. Like, they were literally attacking the guards when they were finally overpowered by the guards. And they were like, well, we didn't do anything wrong. Why would you do this to us? I was like, what do you mean, why would you do this to Why would I do this to you? You guys assaulted the guards after assaulting a child and lighting an entire farm on fire. Of course you guys are under arrest. So, of course, then they had to do a prison break. But that was one of my favorite things, like making them face consequences. That was like the most severe consequences that group had ever had to face. And it was, goddamn, was it funny. It was so funny. I'm just like sitting there laughing. Like, why would you do this? Like, you know exactly why I would do this, you psychos. You guys are absolute sociopaths. That's here. So, boss, the fugitive, Gregor Lofton, will try to fight the players if he is found. Absolutely, he's going to try and fight them and get away. Oh, kitty got excited. There's a chipmunk outside on the patio. Wow, we got to go hunt that son of a bitch. Which is to say she's going to stare at him from the other side of the plate glass window, because she's not going out there. I'm not letting her hunt poor innocent chipmunks. Not going to happen. Treasure/reward types. If players want to be evil, they can loot from the houses. Otherwise, if they are... How do I want to say this? If they are sane about things, they can be rewarded/commended by the authorities for capturing the would-be assassin. Because that's one thing that they will... oh man, I didn't spell assassin right. Assassin. There it is. I just have to remember assassins have two asses. So yeah, so that's the thing. If they are at least sane and under control in this chase, they can be commended, because they are chasing someone who is trying to assassinate the queen. Right? That's what's happening. So that is the setup for this. So I will at least give players credit for that. But if they cause a whole bunch of collateral damage, there will be consequences for that too. Puzzles and trap themes. So puzzles will be searching for someone who is hiding. And then we'll put here traps, quote unquote, are angry homeowners and security, I'm going to put in quotation, security systems, and quote, security systems that try to protect the homes. Right, so that's what some of them are going to be like. I'm thinking we could just put up some traps that are You know, like just some random janky ass bullshit that someone would put up to make sure no one comes in and steals their shit, right? Because it is a shanty village. There's a lot of people who would be willing to steal from one another. So a lot of people would have probably, you know, set up a tripwire that if you don't open the door slow enough, you know, and know it's there, it'll trigger, you know, like a brick to fall on your head or something ridiculous like that. Let's see here. So for this, any other atmospheric notes? Nah, I don't think there's really anything else to do about it. It's a shanty town. There's not a whole lot of nuance involved there. So primary tasks, again, this is just a way to keep myself focused, right? To make sure that I remember what the purpose of this dungeon is. So the primary tasks here, we are just going to put some bullet points here. And I'm just going to say primary tasks, the main focus is finding the fugitive, and then as a sub bullet, let's see here, well, and say, let's see here, so primary task, finding the fugitive, players should try to minimize collateral damage, and not piss off residents. They aren't obligated to, may face consequences if there is too much destruction. Right? If there's too much, then yeah, they're gonna get in trouble. Villains and allies. Okay, so again, for this one, again, it's real easy. I've already described this particular villain here. So we can just copy that and we'll just paste it right here. Right? Because Gregor's going to be the main bad guy. He doesn't have any lackeys here. But what I am going to put down here, because I like the idea so much, for villains we're going to say residents. Right? So first it's going to be residents. If players enter an occupied home, the residents won't be super happy about it. And then the other one that I want to do is I want to do, let's see, underline it here, drunk guy. I really like the idea of there being a drunk guy around there. I really like that idea. Especially because my thoughts on this is that it would be happening during the day. I mean, it's in a shanty town and they're trying to attack the queen. So the idea is the queen is probably out and about, maybe doing something in town when he tries to assassinate, and then runs in there. So it's like in the middle of the day, just some dude is like completely day drunk and being quite obstinate about everything. I really like that idea. That's such a fun idea. Drunk guy. There's a dude in the alleys who is drunk and really wants to fight someone. Perfect. I've never fallen. That's amazing. I've never worked as a bouncer, but as someone who is straight edge, I don't drink. And I never have, and so because of that, particularly in college, I spent a lot of time as the designated driver for my friends in college. And even when drunk people are on your side, even when they're your friends and they want to get along, boy, is it tough to wrangle them. It is like herding cats trying to get drunk people to just behave in general. Even when they're not trying to be belligerent, they are. And here's the other thing too. I have yet to meet a single person who, when sober, recognizes how much of a handful they are drunk. Everyone is always like, "Oh, I'm not a problematic drunk. Oh, I don't cause problems when I'm drunk." It's like, no. You don't realize you cause problems when you're drunk, right? Everyone is louder, everyone is easily distracted, and everyone is much more determined when they're drunk. Like they always speak very loudly. They always get ideas in their head that have nothing to do with what's going on around them. And it is always very difficult to distract them from that idea that they come up with. Best story about that, about wrangling people. I was actually in a buddy's. I was part of the wedding party for a buddy of mine. He was getting married, and as the guy who didn't drink, it was my job after the reception to help wrangle the rest of the wedding party and get them all safely back to the hotel. Right? There's one guy in particular. We're walking back to the reception was happening in a city, right? So we're walking through the city to get to the parking garage where everyone is, so that way I can start bussing everyone home. And I kid you not, the motherfucker, I had to literally grab him by the suit coat and drag him, because he was not intentionally belligerent, he was not trying to cause problems, but every single club we walked by, he was like, oh, and he wanted to go in and flirt with people, he wanted to go in and get more drinks, and I was like, no, it is midnight, you are already 3 sheets to the wind, we are going back to the hotel, and that's just how it's going to be. And it's just, it's so funny. Yes, I agree. The best ones are the sleepy ones. Yes, they're still a challenge. The sleepy ones can still be a challenge to handle, because again, all they want to do is they want to sleep, and so it can still be tough to get them going. But it is they are preferable, because at the very least I find they don't really fight me as long as I say no, we're gonna get you home to bed. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, and then they go along with you. Yeah. But yeah, no, drunk people, something else. Let's see here. How's it going, Eldritch? Glad to see you. Glad you're back, Spooky. Glad to see you guys. But yeah, all of that to say, there's going to be a drunk dude. He wants to fight someone, and it's going to be very hard to get him away from the mission at hand without, likely without indulging him. They will probably have to fight him and knock him out, if they want him to. Eldritch, I appreciate you saying that about me. Yeah, Fallen, that was always kind of my thing with being the DD. It wasn't really ever a fun job, but I always appreciated being the DD, just because I appreciated making sure my friends were safe, and I also appreciated not making my drunk ass friends someone else's problem. I didn't like hearing stories about my drunk friends, especially secondhand, when they were laughing about whatever hijinks they got into, and I was like, I guarantee you guys gave headaches to 5 other people who had to deal with your drunk asses, right? It's kind of like being the one guy who recognizes, you're at a restaurant, and you're the one guy who recognizes that everyone at your table is being really difficult, so you sort of leave a larger tip just to make up for it. It's that kind of situation. Eldritch, I knew what you meant, but I mean, come on, man. It was the perfect tee up. It was the perfect tee up for me to mess around with you. All right, let's see here. So we've got sort of our villains and allies outlined here. Allies. Maybe we'll come up with an idea for an ally, but I kind of like the idea of everyone just kind of being, Actually, you know what? Here, I am gonna add one ally. We're gonna underline this one ally. We're gonna say, we'll just say helpful citizens. And here's what we'll do. I want this capitalized though. There we go. So helpful citizens, we'll say if players are respectful of property, some citizens will be alert enough to inform players about the direction the fugitive was last seen heading, etc. We'll just do that. So it's there can be some citizens that'll be okay, if the players, as long as they're not causing problems, they will help them out. We'll put that as an ally. And I feel like that can be kind of the case for any citizens, particularly those in the homes. If they knock, and are polite in asking citizens about, have you seen someone, that someone can be oh, I saw someone running through the window, I didn't know what that was about. Oh yeah, there can be a kid. Yeah, it's the perfect TV trope, Fallen, where it's there's that one little kid who's just a complete asshole. It's I might have seen where they were going. but you gotta pay me first. You know, it's like if they give him money or something like that, then the kid coughs up the information. Otherwise, he's just a little shit that'll run away. I hate kids. Kids are the worst. But yeah, I think that still falls under like helpful citizens, and I can just do like, yeah. Hey, Kickstand, how's it going? How is it going? Let's see here. So now we gotta do. So there's our kind of baseline background information. So here we go. So for the map details, so the first thing that I always do is I always have some dungeon-wide notes, and I always do skill checks, right? I always have whether the kid's telling the truth or not. That's what I always do. That's actually a good idea. Like, I feel like what I would do for that situation is I would just think to myself, like, okay, like this kid, you know, for this much information, he will be honest to them. Like this much money, he'll be honest with them. Less than that, he'll be dishonest with them. And then have players do an insight check, and then depending on what they roll, you know, whether or not they're suspicious of them. I think that'd be good. It'd be good. I'm sorry it's not going great for you, Kickstand. Hopefully you can hang out here for a little bit though, and things will get better. We're having a fun time discussing this fugitive chase dungeon where it's really a city that the players are chasing a guy through. You know what, Eldritch? I would not put it past my players. Sorry, there's cat hair everywhere. My players, particularly the players in this area, they're an aggressive bunch sometimes. They rescued a child who was starving and dehydrated, lost at sea. It was a child. They rescued him from the sort of like piece of driftwood that he was floating on. They pulled him up onto their ship and immediately interrogated him and locked him in the basement, and were trying to think about ways they could ditch him on an island or something. They're horrible people. It's hilarious. Oh, absolutely, Fallen. Absolutely. That'd be a great one. That'd be, yeah, anything to earn a buck. Especially some snot-nosed, you know, grifter, Oliver Twist type of kid. Little fuckers. Let's see here. Okay, so for this, getting back to what I'm working on here, I always predetermine whatever the skill checks are going to be, just so that way, when players come up with things that I haven't sort of pre-planned, I at least have an idea of how easy or difficult something should be, right? So I always have like what the cutoff for the easy, medium, or difficult is going to be, and that's kind of how I like to balance that based on whatever player level this dungeon's balanced for. Walk into local prostitute, absolutely, that'd be a good one. Mid job. Kickstand, that sounds rough. I definitely know how panic attacks go. That's a tough situation to be in. Sounds like your dad means well, but he's kind of got the wrong approach to it. But hey, you know what? You're here now. You don't got to worry about that right now. Right now, we're just coming up with goofy ways to make a chase scene as full of hijinks as possible. So hopefully that will help make today at least a little bit better. But yeah, so let's see here. So with the easies, and I've actually sort of so I have my challenge levels and stuff already sort of pre-planned out, so that way I keep things consistent throughout the world. So let's see here. So if this is going to be a level 1, easies are set to 10, mediums are 11, and difficults are 12. This is for level 1 players. I don't want this to be too hard for them. I want this to just be a fun situation for them. So easy checks will be a 10, 11, or a 12. And I just sort of pre-do that, so that way I don't have to sit there and worry about things too much. So now enemies. So usually with a dungeon, I will do a lot of, I'll have sort of predetermined what type of monsters and enemies are going to be there. This particular dungeon's not going to be a whole lot of that going on here. So instead, we're just going to do enemies. We're just going to do here. We'll just do. I don't even know what to call them. We'll just say people, right? People that may be aggressive if players are rude. Yeah, we'll just do it that way. We'll just say that, and then the boss is going to be our friend Gregor here. because it's not like there's going to be a whole lot of... I don't want this one to be a conventional dungeon where there's like, oh, there's spiders and rats and stuff waiting. Like, this is meant to be more of a... It's really meant to be almost more of a skill check type of thing, right? Yeah, Kickstand, I definitely also understand anxiety. That is definitely something that I struggle with. So I feel ya on those struggles. Definitely there. Eldritch, you just want me to fuck with my players as much as possible, setting it to easy at 30. I don't even know if a level 20 could handle a 30 skill check. They're just being mean to my players. Okay, so long rest risks. I'm not even going to do that, honestly. So I always like to have just sort of a table of things that can happen when they're taking a long rest in the dungeon. I don't like, you know, I don't like my players to just get away with always, like, because I have so many players. Like, all my players will always be like, oh, we were in a dungeon and I used up 2 of my spells. Let's take a long rest so I have all of them before we go to the next room. And I always hate when my players metagame like that. So if they want to do that, I always just say like, okay, you can do that, but then I really increase the chance that they're going to. I always really increase the chance that there's going to be something that finds them. But in this situation, I think the context of this particular dungeon, it's really not going to lend itself to needing that. I really don't think it's going to be a situation where they're going to find themselves needing a long rest. Let's see here. Okay, so that's what we got there. So now we can start working on the specific dungeon details. So I'm looking at the time here. I don't have a whole lot of time, so let's try and get through a couple rooms here. Let's just try and figure out what goes in a couple of these rooms, a couple of these houses, and we'll call it a session there. But I got like maybe 10-15 more minutes left before I gotta really take off. But let's try and get some stuff in what we can. So marker 1. So usually I always do like a guarded entrance. So I always like to do I always like to have it be like guarded doesn't necessarily mean a physical guard standing there. I always like to make some sort of definitive entry into a dungeon. You know, some sort of way that like I don't like my dungeons just to necessarily be always walk in and out, right? So there's always something. There's always like they need a key to get through a door. Maybe there are guards. Maybe there's some sort of magical spell blocking it, right? So that way it's like there's a way for them to know that this is a dungeon and this is where they need to go, and give them some sort of like definitive like, yes, this is where you're trying to go and this is where you need to go next to accomplish this mission. For this situation, I don't think it really fits. We don't really need a guarded entrance, so to speak. So in this home, rather than there being a guarded entrance, we're going to throw an audible here, and we're just going to put empty home. Right, so this is just going to be an empty home that they can maybe do, that they can maybe, you know, and like maybe I'll put it so it's like, it's potentially, like you know, maybe it's a place, maybe at the beginning of the dungeon I'll just like randomly roll to try and you know, determine where the guy is hiding or something like that. So right now we're just gonna put empty home and we're just gonna leave it like that. I'm just gonna leave it like that and put more stuff in there later when we get to it. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll just, I don't know, we'll put more notes. We'll just put more notes needed. I'm going to do that. I'm going to put that right there. Needed. Let's see here. So markers 2 through 6. So rooms 2 through 6, these are sort of the combat ones. In this situation, we're going to do inhabited home right here. Inhabited home. So all we're going to do for these ones, yeah, so this is just, these are going to be the homes that have people living in them, and that's how it's going to be potentially a combat home, right? Because they're places where there are NPCs that are probably not going to be super happy about Someone just coming in and kicking down the door. Oh, there you go. There you go, Fallen. Yeah, have it look ransacked. Worked over. Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. I'll do that. I'm gonna put a little side note there. Maybe I'll flesh that out. So maybe a or maybe a yeah, I like your term, ransacked. Ransacked home. That's here. Yeah, something like that. That's a good idea to just like demonstrate. You're like, hey, this is a pretty rough and tumble place. And it also, you know, it's a good way to, like, I could use that for a lot of the empty homes, right? Or it's like, that's a good way to establish, like, maybe that's the type of home that he's going to hide in, right? Something like that. It's not a bad idea. I like that idea, Fallen. I like that idea. So let's see here. So we'll just call this marker 2, inhabited home. Let's see here. What home are we in? Oops, wrong one. I want this one open. So if we're looking at number 2 here. So this is a smaller one. Maybe it's a family where it's like when they walk in, maybe there's a mother and 2 children in there or something like that. Yeah, we'll do that. Why not? Why not? That seems appropriate enough. So we're just gonna put a bullet there. Let's see here. In this home is a mother and her 2 children. If players bust in the door, she will be panicked. Gosh dang it. Panicked. Why can't I spell panicked? She will be frightened. Damn it. My brain is not working on panicked, so we're going to do frightened. God damn it. This is why thesauruses are helpful. Oh, boy. Here you go. Yeah, flying pots and pans. That's kind of what I was thinking. She will be frightened and try to defend her home. I was thinking with a ladle. Thank you, Fallen. That is absolutely how you spell panicked. My fingers were not in the mood to do it, though, so I was just like, that's one of my things. If my hands aren't typing something properly, I'll give up and try something else. Let's see here. Players bust in the door. She will be frightened and try to defend her home. We'll do with various kitchen implements. We will say, however, let's also say rolling pin or a meat cleaver. Yeah, roll a percentile dice, and the higher the percentile, the more deadly the kitchen utensil will be. That's not a bad idea. Let's see. I'm just gonna leave that one up to my inspiration in the moment. One thing I will say, though, we'll do, however, if players are polite and knock, one of the children will have seen something and say as much to the players. Boom. There we go. All right. We'll just do that. Whoop, there goes the cat. Yep, we got another squirrel out there. Naturally, she has to go hunt them. So what time is it? Shoot, I'm running low on time. Let's do one more. Let's try and get one more here. I'm just gonna, because it's gonna be largely the same thing. Actually, you know what? No, let's not do one more. Let's go ahead and finish off by filling in these 2 rooms. It's not a bad idea. People will come to help her if she's like freaking out about it. It's not a bad idea. If we were thinking about putting the drunk guy right there, maybe the drunk guy goes in there like, "Are you harassing this lady?" And just like it becomes all this big thing. That's not a bad idea. Let's see here. So I'm gonna pull up my object tool here, and we're just gonna put a few different household things here. This house does not have a toilet. We already established our public latrines. Let's go ahead and do table. We'll just put like a small table there. I like the idea of like maybe we'll just do a small table right there. Stable. Okay, they're doing stables because I typed table. That's funny. That amuses me. I'm probably the only one who thinks that's funny. Let's see here. Let's do chair. Right, we'll just find a couple small stools or something. Is there not just like a regular chair that's not busted? Why is everything broken? Okay, there we go, chair. So we'll just put like 2 chairs there. I don't know, it's a poor family. They only have one. Only have like 2 chairs, whatever. Do 2 chairs there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some bedrolls because it's a poor family. Do bed. I'm pretty sure they have like bedroll options in here somewhere, don't they? Camp bed. Yeah, that kind of fits. Is that a pillow? Oh, those are just pillows. Yeah, we'll just do a couple camp beds in the corner, right? There. The whole family just sleeps on a few mats right there. We'll do that, and then maybe like the family has like a stove. They have stoves in here. They do have stoves. Yeah, we'll just put like a small stove for the family in there. Let's rotate that just a smidge. Boom. Put like a stove for the family there. Boom. There we go. Small family home. I'm not going to put in any sort of icons to represent the people. I always put those in when I get into the map system, so that way they're manipulatable, so I can move them around and have them interact with the house as appropriate and as needed. So there we go. So there's a family home. And actually, you know what? What I'm going to do really quickly, I do actually really like the idea of making room number 1 being I like the idea of room number 1 being sort of this ransacked place. I may even end up making that the place where he's hiding. You know, so if they go through that way, then there they go. So I'm just going to put in a few piles of like broken things. So let's go back to our table. Right, we got like a busted table here. Right, let's throw a busted table in right there maybe. Let's find chairs. Right, and let's do some like a busted chair there. Maybe like a knocked over chair there. Let's do just another chair sitting in the corner, like a little off kilter, things like that. Bed, we can put like a broken up bed in there. Right, we can have, do they have busted beds? I don't really have busted up beds, do they? It's too bad. So, oh, but that's like a pretty, there we go, broken bed. Yeah, boom, a broken bed like right there. Boom, bada bing, bada boom, there we go. Old bloodstain, I like that idea. Now we're thinking. Blood. None of these things are blood. There we go, there's some blood stains. Let's put like a blood stain. Maybe we'll just put a blood stain like right by the door. Like as if someone were being dragged towards the door or something like that. There we go. Get a little blood stain right there. I like that. I like that. There we go. Okay. I think that's good. That's pretty good. I don't know. What's this? Just put some burned wood. I don't know. Yeah, why not? It just makes it look messier. Boom. Just to make things look a little messier and more messed up, right? Just like do that. Just like that. Right there. Perfect. There we go. There we go. That's good. That's good, right? There we go. We made some good progress today. I think we made some great progress today. I think the thing that I really liked about today is we came up with a lot of fun ideas for this dungeon. And even like before starting working on this dungeon, I felt quite excited about working on this one. I thought it was really cool. I always get excited about doing the first dungeon, the first step in like a big mission or something like that. I definitely get really into it, but I actually feel even more excited about it afterwards. It's a lot of fun. So, but yeah, I think I need to be getting myself going here pretty soon. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a session. I appreciate everyone who stopped by. And just for the record, I did notice in the chat some people discussing, some of their personal struggles and stuff and trying to help each other. I think it's awesome that people are comfortable talking about that kind of stuff and comfortable trying to help each other. I'm just hesitant to talk about it in too much detail on the stream because I do upload these VODs and I don't want to accidentally air out someone else's laundry on my stream and have that be immortalized for a bunch of other people. I don't want to do that to anyone in chat. So I 100% sympathize, and I think it's awesome that you guys are comfortable and willing to discuss that kind of stuff. I'm hesitant to talk about it. I don't want to present that to any audience that isn't within the control of the person discussing the stuff. I don't feel like that would be fair to anyone. So I just wanted to address that. I'm not intentionally ignoring or bothered by anyone talking about any of that kind of stuff. I love that people are comfortable with that. I love that we've established a stream and are establishing a community that people feel comfortable discussing that. And I encourage it. People having respectful conversations with each other. I just don't want to make that. I don't want to make the determination on how public that should be. So that's just it. I just wanted to address that. Just so people didn't feel like I was ignoring them. Thank you, Kickstand. I appreciate the follow there. I really appreciate that. And like I say, I'm glad you're comfortable sharing stuff. And I don't ever want to discourage you from sharing, stuff that you want to share and talk about. I just don't also want to make it so that, your problems or anyone else's problems are aired out for everyone to listen to forever and forward. At any rate, that's just, I just wanted to address that. Coming up this week, as far as I know, there's nothing getting in the way of me streaming the rest of the week around this time, as I always do. Monday, Wednesday, Friday always are my writing streams. So I will be here writing, working on this stuff, continuing to work on this region. My plan is to, for the foreseeable future, be working on this region. So that way, we can really get some cool ideas, and people who continue to watch will kind of get familiar with this idea, and that'll just sort of foster even more discussions about stuff. So that's coming up. Tuesdays and Thursdays this week, I will be continuing my run-through of Dishonored, which has been a lot of fun because I am trying to do a low chaos, no kill run as best I can, and it is leading to some very, very goofy situations because I am not exceptional at that game. But yeah, if you want to see something that's a bit less me creating stuff and more so me just reacting to stuff that other people have created, can always do that. We get a lot of actually really cool conversations going on in those ones because I'm less focused on making stuff. So if you want to have more fun conversations that way, can do that type of stuff. Fallen, I always love people coming up with ideas to help me torment my players. That is like the best part of being a DM, frankly. But yeah, that stuff is coming up. And then also just to mention it, because I know I've had some people requesting things like me setting up a Discord channel and stuff like that for the community, and that kind of plays into the community being a place where people can discuss issues with each other and stuff like that. I am waiting for official confirmation that I will be able to continue working from home. Me being able to stream is largely dependent on, I started doing this once I started working from home for my job because of COVID, and this sort of turned into a silver lining for me, and to be able to be able to stream on my lunch hours while I was stuck here, right, not being able to go out and do much. But now that I started doing it, I really like it, and I've been waiting, and I want to continue doing it, but I'm waiting for confirmation that I can continue to do this, because if I end up having to go back to the office in person, my lunch hours aren't going to be available to me like they are now. It sounds like they're going to continue letting us work from home. We've demonstrated that we can do it. My bosses are like, hey, we can save some money by not renting places. So I'm just waiting for official confirmation. If that happens, then look for more intense things with this stream, right? I do want to set up a Discord channel. And once I have confirmation that I can continue this stream in this community, I will absolutely make the effort to do that kind of stuff. So just saying that again because people have been asking me about that. Stay tuned. I'm very optimistic that we will be able to continue to do stuff like that. But for now, that's it. That's what I got for announcements. Like I say, streaming the rest of this week as far as I know. It'll be great stuff. Looking forward to it. Yeah, and so thank you everyone for stopping by. So many awesome conversations and so many awesome things discussed. Ideas come up with. I love it. I absolutely love that kind of stuff. And just my final thing, and I think already actually I've noticed in the chat people kind of doing that for each other. I always finish off my sessions by just call to action for everyone. Please go out there and be nice to each other. Go back out into the real world and be nice to people. This world's kind of an ugly place a lot of times, but I think, the human experience, it's up to us humans to make the human experience a good one. And I think we can choose to make it a good one for the other people we encounter in life. So if we all choose to go out and do good things, then that would be great. Oh, Fallen, quick question: Are you streaming the game this is for? Not presently. That's another thing that might be in the works in the future if I can continue streaming. But as it is right now, all of the games that I am DMing are games that existed before I started streaming. And I don't want to force my players to feel like they have to change how they play or change the dynamic of our game by saying, hey, I'm going to stream these now. I may present it to them if streaming is going to continue to be something that I can do. And so it might be. And I'm also not opposed to the idea of starting another group that is explicitly a streamed game. I would like to do that. But as of right now, I am not, and I don't have any definitive plans to do that. So I will absolutely let you know how Steve the Drunk plays out. I am planning on, it might be a while. My players might not get to this one because they're not in the city presently. But next time they're in the city, I absolutely want to present them with this. So I will absolutely report back to the stream how belligerent Billy, the drunk guy, plays out for everyone. But yeah, so I think that's all I've got. Like I say, just go out and be good to each other. You know, the world can be better if we take the time to try and make it better. You know, one baby step at a time. But thank you to everyone who stopped by. Thank you to everyone watching the VODs on my Twitch or YouTube channel. I appreciate you, whether you're here in person or watching after the fact. I just appreciate that there are people interested in what I'm doing. I think that's super cool, and I'm very flattered by it. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate all of you, and I look forward to seeing you all next time.